hyaluronic acid, medium coverage, SPF 15, and it's only $6.99. Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I have one more episode to my foundation diaries. If you don't know what foundation diaries is basically videos where I review foundation, but I don't only do a foundation review, first impression, word test, but I also show you multiple days during my week where I use the foundation with multiple different primers and also setting powders. So for today's video, we're gonna be reviewing the Profusion Feel Good Skin Longwear Skin Perfector. This is actually the very first Profusion foundation. I actually didn't know about this. I went to my local Walmart, I saw it, and I was very interested because just look at the packaging. Look at this packaging. Now this says that it has hyaluronic acid, SPF 15, and it has a natural satin finish, and it also has medium to full coverage. So when I read all those claims, I was immediately drawn. If you are excited about this video, consider subscribing, hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time I upload. Okay, so we're gonna start with the first impression. So I'm gonna leave you guys with the footage. Okay, so I've already primed my face. I use my Wet n Wild PrimerFocus primer serum, and then for my pores I use my Revlon Photo Ready pore reducing primer. If you don't know me, I have combination skin, so the perimeters of my face tends to be very dry, and then my T-zone, or more like my nose area, tends to be very oily, so I always have to compensate with the primer there. I like to use more mattifying primers or something that's really gonna help with my pores. So on one side of my face, I'm gonna be applying it with the brush, and I'm only applying a small amount. So I'm gonna start blending it with my flat brush. This one is by BH Cosmetics, and I'm gonna see. Now, consistency wise, it does look and feel more like a full coverage foundation. I don't know if you guys could see it. When I saw the packaging, I honestly thought it was gonna be more of that water based type of foundation. I didn't think it was gonna have a lot of coverage. I thought it was more like a tinted moisturizer, but as you guys can see, it has pretty nice coverage. It's blending very nicely. It does have a scent. It smells like perfume, like something very fresh, but not 100% sure what it is. I can't think of what it smells like, but it doesn't smell bad. But if you're somebody that doesn't like any fragrance on foundation or stuff like that, maybe this won't be for you. So this is foundation. No foundation. Foundation. No foundation. Okay, so for the other side, I'm going to be using my Wet n Wild sponge. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to apply a tiny bit. Like I said, this formula does feel a little more a thicker formula. So normally thicker formulas tend to blend a little bit better with the sponge. But I'm not mad about the finish with the brush. I don't know if you guys could see it, but as far as coverage, I feel like I didn't get as much coverage with the sponge, whereas with the brush, like as you can see, I got a lot more coverage. My skin looks a little more perfected and evened out, and on this side it didn't give me as much coverage as in the other side. Yeah, so for me, I think I like more the way that it goes with the brush, and then maybe just to blend everything in place, I will go back with the sponge. Only because, I don't know, I feel like the sponge picked up a lot of the product, and I didn't get as much, like, I'm pretty sure you guys could see it, but like, I didn't get any coverage. So I think for this foundation, depending if you want to get like a little more coverage or you want your skin to be a little bit smoother, I would definitely recommend you going with the brush. And then if you just want to smooth things out, then maybe you can go back and go with the sponge just to kind of like blend everything together. But as far as like first application, I would definitely recommend you going with the brush, only because for the amount of coverage that I personally like, it's definitely a brush foundation. It does transfer, so I'm gonna just give her a couple minutes to set. Right off the bat, I really like the finish. It looks very smooth. As far as dewy, I think it is more of a natural finish. On me, it looks a little more dewy, but because I did use this Wet n Wild product, and this normally tends to make foundations look a little more juicy, but it's a really nice foundation. Looking up close, it looks very pretty. Okay, so for my concealer, I'm using the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. This is one of my favorite concealers. I like the hydrating version. I don't like the original version for some reason. I just feel like for some reason I was never able to make it work, at least not on my skin. So probably 'cause we have great. Okay, so now to set the concealer, I'm gonna use my Benefit. This is the Boing Under Eye Setting Powder. This has been one of my favorite products to set my under eye lately. For the rest of the face, I'm gonna use my Dermablend Loose Setting Powder. And I'm just gonna set my entire face. I'm gonna apply the rest of my makeup and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is what the foundation looks after, I want to say like about 3-4 hours. As you can see, it did oxidize. I'm pretty sure you're able to see it in my neck. As far as like the rest of my face, it looks fine except for this area right here. And I don't know if that has to do with the fact that I like kind of when I apply my bronzer and my blush, I apply it a little bit to my nose. And that looks like that, but it's kind of like falling apart on these areas. So for tomorrow, I think I'm gonna apply it with different primers and see if that works a little bit better. But so far, first impression, I'm not sure. I really like the way it looked when I first apply it, but I need to play with it a little bit more. So I will keep you guys posted. I'm gonna wear it tomorrow as well, and then I'll show you footage at the end of the night today. Today was very hot. It was very humid, as you can see it in my hair, so maybe that could be why, but from far apart it looks very pretty. It's just when you look it up close, you can kind of see a little bit of it.
This is wrong, so why do we carry this on in the end? We probably won't stay friends. We both try to keep our distance, but feelings will never listen. No. Oh, what do I fool myself? This could be something else.
Okay, so this is the third day that I'm wearing the foundation. It looks pretty good in my forehead. I'm not getting super oily. I used a different powder today, and I feel like my skin is so dry. So if you have very oily skin and you have a powder that it really mattifies your skin, that you like the way it looks, this foundation would be perfect with that, because as you guys could see, it's pretty hot here. It's actually 86 degrees and I'm not getting oily or anything like that. I was wearing the mask for a while today. I went to IKEA, and as you can see, it didn't rub off as much from my nose. I'm barely starting to get oily on this parts of my nose, but that's, you know, that's the parts that I get oily. Coverage still there, my blush, my highlight, everything is still there. And I've been wearing this foundation for like about 5 hours now. So it looks pretty good. For me, that I have more combination skin, I do feel like my skin is a little dry, like especially my cheeks. It feels kind of tight, but I think it's because of that powder. So next time I won't be using that kind of powder with this foundation.
I know you got them feelings too. Oh, and I love it's not just me. Takes two to for level 3.
Overall, $6.99 for a full coverage foundation with hyaluronic acid and SPF 15. It's a pretty good price. Let's just say it. Like $6.99, you definitely cannot beat this price. Yes, the pros about this foundation, definitely the coverage. I absolutely love the coverage. It does have more of a medium to full coverage. So if that's the type of coverage that you enjoy, this foundation definitely delivers. Like honestly, I was very pleased with the amount of coverage that you get from this foundation. Definitely use it with the brush. Don't use it with the sponge. The sponge will soak most of the product, and you're not gonna get that beautiful flawless finish that you get with the brush. At least in my experience, I noticed that even though I would apply it with the sponge, I just didn't like the finish. Like I didn't feel like it gave me enough coverage. I didn't feel like, for me, definitely this is a brush foundation. Another thing about this foundation, definitely the ingredients. Hyaluronic acid is something that is like I just wanted in my skin. I want to be drenched in hyaluronic acid. Love that. This foundation is also cruelty free and vegan, so that's another plus. And it has SPF 15. Now SPF 15 is not a lot, but it is something. Now for the cons about this foundation, you can't have good without bad. It says it's long wearing. Honestly, it is, depending what you use it with. Okay, so that it's one of those foundations that you definitely have to try it with multiple different primers and multiple different setting powders to see which one will give you the best results. Because as you guys saw on the first days, I applied it with more of a hydrating primer in the perimeters of my face, and then I use more of a pore filling primer in the T-zone. And I noticed that although that's my regular routine, that's what I normally use with all my other foundations, I did notice that this foundation didn't last as long. I noticed that it did emphasize my texture, that it made my pores look larger than what they are. At least I want to think. And definitely if you're going to be wearing a mask, it will transfer like crazy, and it will rough off your nose like within the first try. For the other days, obviously I used different primers, different things, and I did notice that it lasted a little bit longer, but I don't think it's a long wear foundation, only because after 5-6 hours it starts looking heavy, it starts looking cakey, and that is something that I definitely don't like on my foundation. So that's one thing to have in mind. I mean, obviously if you are not going to be wearing foundation for more than 5-6 hours, this is a beautiful foundation. But if you do need to wear your foundation for a very long period of time, you need to use a very grippy primer and use a lot of setting powder to make sure that you lock it in place, and to try to avoid a lot of that transfer, because this definitely transfers like crazy. Another con about this foundation is definitely the shade. I got mine in the shade medium 5 warm yellow. It looks very pretty when you first apply it, but it definitely oxidizes like 1 or 2 shades. So that's something that you need to have in mind before you actually purchase it, because it did oxidize like crazy, at least on me. Another con about this foundation, it's very scented. It's not a bad scent, but it's definitely there. And one of the things that I noticed is that not only it smells when you first apply it, because it's actually quite strong, but also when you're taking it off. So on the second day when I was taking it off, I applied my regular cleansing balm, and as I was rubbing, I started like to smell my fingers, and I realized that I was still able to smell the foundation. So I don't know if it was that I just wasn't able to smell it anymore because I got used to the smell, or if just the contact with the cleansing balm made some type of reaction that made the foundation smell again, which is, it would be kind of weird because that's never the case. But you know, it's something to have in mind. If you really don't mind scent, well, you should be fine. But if you are, like I said, very sensitive, I would stay away from it because it does linger for quite some time. So something to have in mind. Obviously, $6.99, it's not a bad price if you are on a budget or if you've been wanting to try a new foundation. This foundation is okay. I wouldn't go and buy it again, only because, I don't know, it's just so hard to find the right balance with the primer and the setting powder. So at least for me, this is not something that I would always need to have in my collection, for the simple fact that it's a lot of work that goes into trying to make it work without making it too dry or being extremely oily that it rubs off your face like crazy. So for me, this is not something that I would run out and buy. I think if you have very oily skin and you like to bake and you like to apply a lot of powder, you probably would like something like this because it does last a very long time if you do use those techniques. But if you have very dry skin, it would be a little bit harder to find the right balance. At least for me, that was my experience. I noticed that I would use very hydrating products and I would assume that my skin was going to feel hydrated, but it was the opposite, which was kind of weird. And when I used more of a serum type of thing and more of pore filling, I saw a lot of texture in my skin and I honestly did not like it. Although it kind of worked pretty good for more than 5 hours, I still was able to see texture, and it emphasized every single pore in my face, and obviously, who wants that? At least not me. Unfortunately, this foundation, I wouldn't repurchase it, but let me know in the comments if you guys are going to be trying it, if you tried it, if you picked it up. Tell me what you thought about it. Maybe you have different type of skin than me, so maybe your experience was a little bit different. What are your thoughts if you're going to be picking it up? If not, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on my next one. Bye!